What is going on, YouTube universe? Welcome to the Hip and Shoulder, and today, ladies and gentlemen, it is Supercoach time. Time to reflect upon my score from round 2 and how my team collectively performed, whilst diving into round 3 with the trades I'm going to be making and maybe some speculative picks that you guys at home should be considering as well. When reflecting on round 2, I did a hell of a lot better than I did round 1. We managed to score 1,883, which put us in the top 27% of players, and we moved a little bit over 20,000 places overall. So I'm very happy with that outcome, given that over these bye rounds, it's only best 18, and I did have some players that kind of fell on the wayside a little bit and should have performed better. I could have well and truly cracked over 2,000 had those players performed well, and we're going to dive into that right now. Don't mind the formation of my team right now because I've moved players from off the bench onto the field and vice versa, kind of to get a gauge of where my trades are going to be at this week. But if there is a DNP there, they obviously didn't play due to having a bye, so the Gold Coast players and the GWS players, or they just missed due to injury, kind of like Bailey Smith did. But having a look at our defense, we had Harry Sheasel come out with an 81, a little bit unders from what we're used to seeing from him, but I will take that any day of the week. Jordan Clark putting out 122. I am so glad I started Jordan Clark. We could have gone with Dane Zorko like I did in my pre-round 0 team, but saving that little bit of money and splashing it elsewhere I think paid off. Matt Roberts coming out with 115. Again, a very solid mid-price pick, and I'm going to be happy to keep him all year. If he keeps pumping out numbers like this, he isn't going anywhere. Joel Frazier was having myself incredibly nervous during that game. He was only on 40s and 50s for a very long time, and then popped off in the second half of that game, scratching up to 100. So the trade down from Perryman to Frazier was a success. We traded Lockie Ash down to Sam DeConning, who got us a 74. So it wasn't the 109 that he got the week prior, but he was up against Rowan Marshall for most of the night. Rowan Marshall was one of the best players on ground for not only St Kilda, but for the game. So I think he held his own, and to get a 74 as a mid-price kind of player, we'll take it. And we had Luke Trainer on field. I thought he'd score a hell of a lot more than Zach Reed this week, but he only gave us a 24 while we had Zach Reed on the bench for a 36. These defensive and forward rookies are killing me, and I know they're killing a lot of people at home as well. So when it comes to some eligible DPP players after round 5, I think we're going to be eating good, and we're going to discuss that when it comes to my trades this week. We threw the captaincy on Lockie Neal, who bounced back in an emphatic way, 133 points. Thank you very much. This is why you never go the early crow and trade out your premium players. I was stupid enough to even consider it after last week, and he's just come and repaid the faith to all of those who kept him, and for all those who traded him out, they're probably ruining the fact that they wasted a trade. Andrew Brayshaw, 106. Again, happy that I locked up another Fremantle premium. They've got such a good run up until the mid-season buys. He's knocked out back-to-back hundreds. He's going to be one that I think a lot of coaches are going to want to bring into their team. He's just one of those players that goes under the radar by many, and he only had 19 disposals, but it was everything that he did around the ground that adds all those points up together. I'm stoked that I went him instead of going different avenues. Clayton Oliver repaying the faith, got the 97 in round 1 after giving away 5 free kicks, comes out and gives us 130 this week, showing that he's well and truly back to his best. If you didn't start him, you probably want to get him in as soon as you can before the price rise this week, and I'm so glad that I did start him because he was one that I actually flirted with the idea of not starting to bring in another pod, and after last week, I've learnt my lesson. Pods, sometimes, you're really taking a risk. You're going out on a limb, and the pods I went with kind of destroyed me a little bit, and I'm having to burn trades early to correct them, and it's hurting me. It's hurting me deep down inside, but Clayton Oliver is one I'm glad I started. Adam Chera, coming into round 2. I said if he underperformed, I was going to be chopping him out of my team, and it was going to allow me to make a big move. Comes out and scores 113. He isn't going anywhere. He's staying in my team for a very long time to come. If he keeps pumping out numbers like that, he's easily an M8, M9 option after I upgrade all my other players. Finn Callaghan obviously didn't play last week. I did have Sam Lawler on the ground, scoring a 39 when I had the 52 from Camporelli on the bench. Obviously being such a low score from Lawler, it didn't count towards my 23 total. Or 22 rather. We had Finn O'Sullivan on the ground for 42. He's got the right role, but his scoring output has been incredibly let down, and I don't understand why. But he is one of those players that will be getting defensive DPP because I think he's played 100% of time in defense. So he's going to get that mid-defensive role, which is going to be incredibly handy because when you've got players like Trainer and Reed scoring 30s, but O'Sullivan's come out and scored 40s, 50s, whatever the case may be, you're a little bit more rooted in maybe putting him in your D6 because you know his job security is solid compared to the others. Sardis gave us a 78, repaid the faith to those who kept him. However, he is having surgery on a finger this week, so he will miss this week. And then after that, Darcy Parish is set to come back in, so I don't know how his job security or his midfield minutes are going to be managed when he comes back in. So Sardis for me this week, although he stands to make more cash than Finn O'Sullivan, will be on the chopping block for me. Mitch Nevitt gives us a 58, a little bit down from what we are used to, but still very serviceable given his lack of opportunity to get near the ball, I suppose. He's still a keeper. He's going to make us a lot of money. On the bench, as I pointed out, Camporelli with the 52. Boxall didn't play. However, for anybody that did what I did and started Boxall and has still got him, he is rumoured to debut this week. And going off of the preseason game they had, I think he had like 89 Supercoach from that game. So he has proven in that one game that given opportunity, he could be a good scorer. So one to keep an eye on. My ruck line. Something must have been in the waters because both Max Gawn and Toby Nankervis gave me a 67 with Nankervis having the vice captaincy on him. I thought he would go 120, 130 against Jordan Sweet, and Jordan Sweet beat him soundly. Similar with Max Gawn, Tristan Cherry defeated him soundly, and it's been reported that Max Gawn is dealing with personal issues, and he looked very checked out, and I don't know what this personal issue is, whether it's going to be affecting him over weeks to come, but this drop in score is going to see him hemorrhage a lot of money. So, as much as I would like to have kept him, I will be trading Max Gawn this week, and it's a no-brainer for me, and a lot of people are doing the same, so we'll get to that when the time comes. In the forward line, Jason Horne-Francis is this close to being put on the chopping block for myself. I tried to keep the faith after round one. I thought he'll get 100 points against Richmond, surely. He got a 61. Now, played predominantly in the forward line out of necessity after some moves had to be made because Jacques Lacocious went down early with injury and was subbed out. Hopefully they can rectify that and they get him back in the guts this week. I'm giving him one more chance. I've got a plan set for him. After the DPPs are made, I'm not going to reveal that until the time comes, but if he doesn't perform, come the end of round 5, he's fucking out of here. Jack McRae, 162. Absolutely huge. I am going to make plays with him this week that I think a lot of people would be stupid not to be doing, but he's repaying the faith to everybody that backed him in. Bailey Smith obviously didn't play this game, so I did have Elijah Hewitt on field, and I had Isaac Kako in the wings ready to go. Unfortunately, no, it was the opposite. Was it the opposite? No. Yes. Maybe. I had one of them on field, and we had Davidson in the emergency position, and his score was taken for Tom Lynch, who I left on field, who also didn't play due to suspension. Caleb Daniel giving us 116, showing us that he's fit into that halfback role at North Melbourne incredibly well. Davidson getting the 72, showing what he kind of did in that preseason game against Hawthorn that we all wanted to see from him, and we didn't get in round 1, but we've got it now, and he's starting to really come into his own. Kako with the 34, don't think he's going to be making us much money. He's one of those forwards that I think we might have fallen into a trap for, but there's not many forward rookies scoring great numbers currently, so we're trapped a little bit. Elijah Hewitt gave us a 58, very serviceable given his price. Both him and Kako are going to make us money at the end of the day. And Nathan O'Driscoll, so glad I made him my flex. He pumps out another 95. He's given us 2 90-plus scores back-to-back, and I'm happy to keep him and keep making money for as long as I can off of him because he was a great selection. I'm glad that the preseason game Fremantle had against the Indigenous All-Stars was an indicator to where he was going to be because he hasn't let us down these last 2 weeks. All my trades this week are going to be corrective for players that I originally had in my calculations pre-season, in my pre-round 0 team, and I'm wanting to balance that out now. I will be burning another boost, which hurts because I wanted to keep those boosts for the mid-season buys, so instead of 3 trades, we get 4 trades, and I can make all my trade-up moves around that time. But I'm hoping, barring injury, and minus maybe, you know, as I said, Horn Francis maybe going at the end of round 5 after DPPs go down, I shouldn't have to make many more trades, if any, up until that point in time. The 3 I will be trading, and it's been a bit hard on me, I am getting rid of Sam Lawler. He stands to only make maybe 4k on his first price rise, because even though on field, in reality, he's going to be, I feel, a generational talent. I think he's got it in him to be that player. You know, he's already got Dustin Martin, you know, mentions between how Dusty used to play and how he plays, and they're really revving him up, and I think he can be that player for Richmond. But when it comes to fantasy scores, I don't think it's going to translate until he becomes a pure mid, and right now they're not doing that at Richmond. I don't know whether they're trying to ease him back in because he broke his jaw in that preseason game against West Coast. I don't know what's going down, but once he gets in that midfield role, I think his numbers will rise. But until then, I think it's time to jump off him if you've got him, especially when other players around his price point and under are performing infinitely greater than he is when it comes to Supercoach scores. So he's gone for me. As I said, Elijah Sartis is gone just purely on not knowing where his job security is going to be at when he comes back from this injury. Darcy Parish should be back in, so I don't know how that's going to go with that mix. When Langford comes back into Essendon's lineup, does that mean Zach Merritt goes back into the midfield more permanently? Again, that would push Sartis out. Sartis is already competing for time on ground and CBAs without those players in that midfield mix. So what's going to happen when they're all back in? I'm a little bit concerned. Again, I could have gone Finn O'Sullivan here, but he's going to get defensive DPP, and I think that's going to be huge, especially when Patton has been dropped. I'll be able to trade Patton out, get O'Sullivan in, and the plan is for next week, because Sydney are on the bye, I'm looking at going Ben Patton down to Bice from Sydney, because he's been scoring infinitely better. I think he's locked down his role at Sydney as well, but there's no point trading in a Bice this week when he's on the bye. And as I said, the other player I'm trading out is Max Gawn. I didn't originally have Max Gawn in my calculations until that round 0 game when Briggs went down with an injury for GWS. Melbourne were playing GWS the following week. I thought it'd be stupid to not get Max Gawn because he could have gone 140, 150, and we only got 118 or something out of him that round. Until then, I had this player, and I'm bringing him back in, and he probably should be everyone's number 1 target at this point, and that's Tristan Cherry. He's priced at under 20k less than Max Gawn right now. However, with the hemorrhaging of cash that Max Gawn is about to have, Max Gawn's going to drop maybe 30 to 40k this week, while we've got Tristan Cherry potentially going up 20, 30k. So if you're going to make that move, do it now. That leaves me with the 2 midfielders that I want to bring in that I should have started. I had one of them in my flex for almost all preseason and didn't go in because there was rumours around the fact that he was going to debut as the sub, and Fagan himself even made a point of doing that and announcing that he was going to debut as a sub, but that's Levi Ashcroft. He's come out back-to-back weeks, 70 plus. He's shown that his job security in that midfield is strong. He's got the right role. Glad to bring him in. And the other player that I'm bringing in is one that I probably should have considered early as well, but I wasn't sure about game time, and that is Xavier Lindsay. He looks so polished out on that wing for Melbourne. I feel they've only been really running Ed Langdon off of one wing, and they've been missing somebody to kind of compete with that speed and ball use on the opposite side, and they've got him. Lindsay is fantastic. This trade sets me up with $74,000 in the bank. I could have stood to make a little bit more money had I have gone for a Finn O'Sullivan. It would have given me close enough to another 10k in reserve, but as I said, we're going to get that defensive DPP status at the end of round 5, so I'm happy to lock in these trades, bank $74,000, start getting that salary built up, so then when it comes to potential moves, including someone like a Horn Francis, or even upgrading one of these, defensive line players, like if Sam de Koning starts underperforming, I can use that to take him up to somebody around the 500k mark once I start banking that cash up. As for our captain options this week, I am going to be putting my captaincy on Jordan Clark in defense against West Coast. I feel he's going to have a huge game. He can pop off in a big way here. I'm not piss farting around with my vice captaincy. It is going on Jack McRae against Richmond. If Jack McRae gets 162 against Geelong, and they were maybe trying to put a little bit of time into him around the ground, but it didn't work, how is he going to pop off against Richmond? If he doesn't get 160 against Richmond, there is something wrong. He is going to go bananas, and I would be stupid not to lock him in as a vice-captain option. If we're looking around the ground, if you've got Connor Rozee, he could be a good vice-captain option against Essendon. You've got Melbourne taking on the Gold Coast, so potentially Clayton Oliver against the Gold Coast could be a good option. You've got North Melbourne taking on Adelaide later on in the week, so a captain option could be Tristan Cherry. I don't know who else you'd really consider. Andrew Brayshaw against West Coast could be a good shout too. But that's how we're going. That's how we're looking. I will move Finn O'Sullivan to my bench, and I'm going to put Ashcroft on the field. I'm happy to take Ashcroft, Lindsay, and Nevitt as my on-ground rookies. Obviously, O'Driscoll in the flex, he's going to stay there quite comfortably. I'm happy with this forward mix. I'm happy with this defensive mix. Roberts isn't playing this week, so I take Zach Reed's emergency score. And he is the only player that I'm missing this week, because it is Sydney and Collingwood sitting this week out. So everyone that's got like a Nick Dacos in circulation, if they've still got Perryman, probably the perfect week to fade Perryman, actually, because you've got Fraser, De Conning, the likes of those players all on the bubble this week, playing their third game and getting their price rise. Perryman on the bye means that you can get him out, and it's not going to affect that price jump at all. And if anything, he's probably going to lose money, and if he makes money, it's going to be very marginable. So definitely be getting off of Harry Perryman if you've still got him. If you've got Max Gawn, I would heavily consider going down to Cherry if you don't have him. Nankervis is a bit of a worry for me, because I've already announced that my plan initially, for my flex is to eventually go down and having a ruckman in my flex and 2 ruckmen on field. But with the way Nankervis played last week, I'm a little bit worried about his output. So I'm definitely still looking at that avenue. I don't know whether TDK can still continue to score like he's scoring once Pitnet comes back into the team, but we'll keep eyes on it. I'm happy with the trades I've made this week. I shouldn't have to make any trades moving forward all that much. As I said, the only trade I'm really looking at doing is Patton down to Bice. And again, that's going to bank me about 20k. So that takes me up to just under 100,000 banked up. And then I can start making some moves. As I said, if Jason Horne-Francis keeps underperforming, I've got the perfect trade in for him after that round 5 DPP eligibility status being confirmed. And there is a player on my radar that if he keeps the forward status that he's got, could be and probably will be one of the most traded in players in Supercoach after round 5 if he keeps scoring like he's scoring and he gets that forward eligibility. So just keep an eye on that. There's going to be some big things going down. But that is it for me for today. Thank you for joining me. I do hope you guys have been enjoying these Supercoach videos. I definitely enjoy putting them together. I don't claim to be the best at this game, but I just enjoy throwing AFL content out and just being able to share my love and passion for the game with you all at home. Do hit that like button if you enjoyed. Get on board the community we are building by hitting that subscribe button down below. I've got a Supercoach League you can jump into at any point in time. Link is in the description if you want to get involved with the tipping competition I'm doing. Also free to join. Go and check out my tipping comps. I'll leave a link for that in the description of this video down below as well. Get on board. Let's have some fun. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.